Welcome to the first Celtic Exchange Weekly of the new year. This is Tino. This week I'm joined by a full house of Miff, Paddy and James as we once again cover all things Celtic. Miff, I'll ask the question that everyone wants to know. Have you sobered up yet from the bag of cans episode?
Hello Tino, hello Paddy, hello James, hello listeners, Happy New Year to everyone. Yes, I think it'll be the last time I'm doing that. A bit of the fear the next day. couldn't remember too much about the end of the episode. But
don't watch it back.
Aye, I haven't and I won't. But no, I'm sober. Yes.
Good to hear. That aside, how you feeling about Celtic's start to the new year? Mixed bag. Obviously, really poor day at the office, 2nd of January. Good result, good performance yesterday against St Mirren.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's just funny how football works out for the depths of despair on Thursday, and then a very pleasant surprise heading into the game on Sunday morning. So, yeah, listen. The nature of football is you just need to kind of dust yourself down and move on. The games are coming thick and fast. There wasn't really too much time to feel sorry for ourselves after what happened at Ibrox. I think the more, the biggest question mark for everyone is why did that performance come at that particular time at that particular venue? You know, you would have taken getting cuffed at Tynecastle or Tannadice and not so at Ibrox, but hey ho, we were playing against a very motivated opponent who done a number on us, and that's fine. But then, hilariously, they failed to back that up. And after all that, for all the heart-wrenching that went on in Thursday, you're back up with a gap of 13 points. And I think that is very much it, in that Celtic are the team that's there to be shot at. And when teams are setting up their whole style to negate the way that Celtic play, added with, I think, a big thing, and I don't see too much has been made of it, but I think a big thing was the really, really poignant minute of silence before the game for the Ibrox disaster, and I think that created a sort of unity in the stadium, which connected the team and the fans, which simply hasn't been there. Because the fans have constantly been at odds with the board or the manager or the team, or somebody's been getting it basically. Celtic played into that by our centre-half passing the ball to someone 40 yards in the middle of the pitch, from our own goal. That doesn't help these things. So as soon as Rangers get that early goal and with the whole sentiment and momentum that were behind the stadium, I think that played a massive, massive part, and I think that was why so many of our players looked spooked. That's just a personal opinion of mine. But we don't want to go on about that too much, because there's also some other things that have happened since then, which no doubt we'll go into. Mm-hmm. But very much a mixed bag. But ultimately, sitting here a happy man.
Yeah, James, those other things that Miff is leaning towards is the fact that despite a competent 3-0 win over St Mirren, Brendan Rodgers is the man making all the headlines, rightly or wrongly.
Just the way he likes it.
And we're going to dissect that. So we're going to play a few of the clips and we'll cover that, and we'll see what the various opinions are. But in terms of the bigger picture, the Rangers have failed once again to capitalise. They get their big win and they deserve the win, as painful as that was for us. But yet again, they show the lack of mentality provided to go and follow that up, and they fell short again to leave us 13 points clear.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons I think that happens is it's a pressure game. These derbies always are. But in terms of the title race, it was inconsequential. Win, lose or draw, Rangers weren't making a dent in our lead in the title race. But they do win that, and then the next game becomes a pressure game, and they fold. And that's the thing they've done time after time after time the last 12 years. Whereas Celtic didn't have as much pressure on them, because again, win, lose or draw didn't matter to the title race, but not winning their next game would have been pretty poor and could have led to a bit of pressure. So that itself makes it a wee bit of a pressure game for Celtic. And what do? They get out and win 3-0, and that's why you're champions.
Paddy, just on that, I seen somebody somewhere describe Rangers, a Rangers fan, just describe them as a cup team. They can do it on one-off occasions, but the bread and butter here is to prove it over 38 games, and Rangers don't have the mental fortitude to do so, whereas Celtic, time after time, whether it's under Brendan Rodgers or Ange or anyone else, continue to do what they need to do domestically.
That's it. And I think one of the things that a lot of their fans are crying out for is they've got some good players within their team, but they don't have a great squad. And that's where their downfall is this season. You can see that they don't have the quality to sustain what they did against us last week. They can't do that week in, week out. And I think that credit to them in terms of how they approached the game last week. It was a tough watch for Celtic fans. We weren't expecting a performance like that from Rangers. We certainly weren't expecting a performance like that from ourselves. But I don't think any Celtic fan across the land would have really worried about that performance in terms of the consistency of Rangers this season. I wasn't surprised yesterday. I don't know about you guys. I've watched enough of their games this season to just be of the opinion that you guys are not in any shape or position to go and string a run of fixtures and try and even lay a glove on us this year.
Yeah, I was, because I just don't think Hibs are great. Now, I know they're on a decent run now, but I mean, even when you look at some of the goals they gifted Rangers,
they're defending
absolutely wild.
Criminal, by the way. But
so to think that is what Rangers were up against, and by the way, Rangers take our game out it, and I think possibly a St Johnstone game out it, which is 9 goals. If you look at what they've actually scored outside of those 2 games, you know, it makes them scoring 3 at Easter Road. The fact that they've not been able to keep the back door shut to take the 3 points, I think it's definitely an attitude thing. That's to be a mental thing.
A lot of chat, January window, how and where we will strengthen. Rocky Bashiri, a man for the set piece goal.
If you play him up front, maybe.
He's entertaining, isn't he?
Yes.
Under no pressure for the goal he lost, and then another one.
Oh, he nearly tried to get them at the end.
I heard his interview, post-match interview in Sportsound, and he's talking about the chance that Eagleman had in the final minutes.
Hit the post.
And he said, I better not do that again. Like, just playing it off. I'm like, mate, you're all over the place.
It must be so frustrating for his manager. I mean, he's effectively the man on the day who saved the result, but he's a liability at times. But he done his job overall. Paddy, just to draw a line under the Ibrox stuff before we kick on though, and we obviously done the post match as well. But losing a game of football is fine, but the nature of how we lost that game is what was so galling for most of us. I don't think anybody's seen that coming. You could maybe say on your day you might lose, but it's the manner in which we lost, and we're going to get to Brendan Rodgers just shortly. That'll be a main focus for tonight in terms of some of his comments. But the way his players responded or didn't respond at Ibrox, cause for concern.
Absolutely, and I think you look at us going behind in other games. We go behind against Leipzig, and we go and perform really strong to get back in it. The team have got the fans behind them as well, and listen, that is a factor. I think I agree with you, Miff. I think that's a difficult place to go to at any point. We've seen many seasons where the league's been wrapped up and done, and we've went to Ibrox and we've dropped points. This is kind of similar in a sense. However, it's still too early to even think like that, in my opinion. I still think that we're too good for them in terms of the length of the season. But for me, I think you need to look at the positive in the sense of our manager has spoke about quality, and I don't mind referring to the point that both our 2 left-sided defenders have been the weakest link, not just this season, but last season as well. They are what slowed down our attack, and it was very evident once again that was a big issue last Thursday.
And if you want to talk about positives, if we beat Rangers or Rangers don't beat us at Ibrox and then draw with Hibs, Cumlin's out of job.
I know. Is it a masterstroke from Rodgers?
Aye.
Chuck it.
So
I think Clement's there at the end of the season regardless, to be honest with you.
They can't afford to get
I think the money's there.
They bag me.
Paddy,
you'd happily just take it on, head to Wonderburn.
What should have been a fairly routine match day for Celtic, as I say, we've kind of taken care of St Mirren, comfortable, 3 good goals, clean sheet, up the road, and you think that's it? Up steps Brendan. If you want to talk about his attire first of all.
But you knew, me and Paddy were discussing it before we went on, you know, you knew it was bad news Brown, when you zip down the kind of padded jacket, and there's a very neat black jumper, you know, no collar. He was there, he was all business, Brendan. He was taking bodies.
It's probably
was taking bodies
out the front, flicked a cigarette away and walked into his press conference. Honestly,
he has arrived. He has arrived at Parker's in a full mood and decided somebody's getting it.
So I've actually watched the press conference back twice today. I got a few messages last night from folks saying, you know, what do you make of this? And I hadn't watched it last night, and I didn't make anything of it. I had no idea. And then you see the headlines coming through. Some folks have gone one way. I was laughing if I was saying that, you know, I might end up being the yin to your yang, and you've corrected me saying obviously I'd be the yang to your yang, giving my support for him. But there's a variety of opinions, and I'm really keen. as a group, we've not properly covered it with a couple of messages in the WhatsApp, so I'm really keen to cover it. And as I say, what I've done is I've broken it into what I think is the three most interesting clips from the press conference, and we'll cover each in isolation and we'll just see exactly where we're at. So, James, if you want to play the first clip in a second. So this is in response to suggestions of a lack of patience by some supporters at nothing each in the game.
And the challenge here at Celtic now is that a big respect for this group of players, especially on a day like today, because when it was 0-0 for the first 20 minutes, we make a backward pass and the crowd get onto the team. And that cannot happen. One, if you know about football, and two, if you can understand that when teams come here, they're going to make it really difficult. You know, you can't turn up every single week and be 3-4-0 up in 20 minutes. Teams are well organised, teams are well set up. You have to work the game. So sometimes you have to play a backward pass to change the point of attack. We make a backward pass and then we go on to the players. And that's why I was proud of the players. This is a point, I don't need the cheers when it's 3-0 and the support when it's 3 and 4-0 and 5-0. This team needs it. It's just the amount of games that they're playing and how we play. You only need to look at the facts and how this team plays to know they're an attacking team, a creative team that creates goals and scores goals. So when we decide to go back to change the point of attack, clap the players. Don't panic. Don't start getting onto them, you know, because we're trying to get another attack.
Miff, when he's talking about guys that don't know football, is he talking directly to you?
Potentially. Potentially. No doubt. I have absolutely no doubt he's subscribed under a pseudonym. No, to be honest, probably, other than the really unnecessary digs about knowing football, I don't have a huge issue with around that, because it's something that annoys me personally. People rock up and expect just to be winning games easily in a short period of time. And listen, you know, in many ways, we ourselves have set that standard because we've been very good for a long time now. But he does actually have a point. It's probably somewhere in the middle that the team sometimes do go backwards for the sake of going backwards when there's really no need to. Go sideways, you know, a wee bit when there's space to, you know, everybody can see there's space to drive into. We choose not to do it. You can only assume that's because the players are told not to do it because they need to, you know, stick to a pattern of play. And again, that's fine. It's brought us loads of success, so I don't have a problem with that. But by the same token, that tone only comes from Rodgers, in my opinion, because he is absolutely scabbing that we get beat at Ibrox. Yep. That is still a hangover from us being beat. Now, what he can't do is go gung-ho for the fans for moaning about getting beat at Ibrox. He can't do that. Now, Rodgers, as we know, has a massive ego, but it's because he's a winner. He's earned that ego. I actually have no problem with his ego and how good he believes he is and the team is, but he would have been absolutely simmering after Ibrox, simmering. So he has come out there swinging. Somebody was going to get it. I'm being now. Like you said off air, Tino, I'm pretty sure it was off air. He never says things without it being deliberately planted there. He never just says things flippantly off the cuff. Everything that he says at a press conference is measured, and he knows exactly why he's saying it. He takes receipts. He knows when people have been bad-mouthing the team, and he'll have seen the absolute astonishment for the fans, and you know what, the fans just, let's be honest, we were all pissed off how we played. So he wants to come out and protect the team, and like we've rightly said, who are we talking about now? We're talking about him. We're not talking about the team. We've touched on Ibrox briefly, but because of the way the results have panned out, we've moved on for that. It's all very deliberate. It's the way that Rodgers operates. But for me, I find it quite strange, because I thought, you know, ultimately you're having a dig at the people who have turned up to support the team the game after we have been beaten at Ibrox. For me, you know, I'd seen something, slight tangent, if you can indulge me.
We've no choice. After
we went 1-0 up, you seen McGregor going up to the Green Brigade and, you know, kind of doing this for those listening on a podcast. I'm doing that whole come on, give us a bit more sort of action that football players do. And I'm a bit like, right, okay,
But why do they have to do that?
Aye, make us cheer by getting the ball and driving 10 yards and beating somebody or having a shot. There's this middle ground that we need to meet, that we're there to support the team, absolutely, you're there to sing, but also the team kind of need to entertain us as well.
It's a two-way street.
But the third point I'm going to make on it is, see where I was sitting, there wasn't really many groans. However, a guy that I work with was sitting in the main stand.
I've heard this, different parts of the ground.
See, he sat in the main stand and he came in to work the day and told me he was perplexed at the groaning and moaning of fans, which is obviously where Rodgers is standing. And I think this is where this has came from.
He'll have felt and heard that behind
He'll
him.
have felt and heard what was coming for the main stand, but absolutely not. So I'm behind the goals. I'm old Rangers end. There really genuinely wasn't any of that where we were sitting.
Paddy, I'll ask. I felt it. I'm in the north stand, closer to the Celtic end, and I felt it particularly around about the 20-minute mark. There was a spell when it was getting popped about the midfield, and it goes back to Carter Vickers. It wasn't going as far back as Schmeichel, but it was going to Carter Vickers and out to Trusty. And there's a clip where he explains all of this. So, just in terms of you need to find a different point of attack. That's the whole thing. You can't always just all guns blazing, go forward. That's not how modern football works. And I did feel the negativity, not hugely, but it was around. And then later on, you check WhatsApp, and the boys in the Celtic WhatsApp chat around about that time in the game are like, this is dross, this is that. And it wasn't great, but you've covered it recently, James. These games, and all games, are 90 minutes plus, and you can't always go 3, 4, 5 up in 20 minutes.
No, and obviously we're upset about the last performance as well. I think for me, it's to be patient with the team, absolutely, and they have earned that right. I'm not going to dispute that at all. If we're talking about players taking the game in the scruff of the neck, though, I think for me the only midfielder that was daring to turn on the ball was Arne Engels yesterday. I don't think there was anything coming from Luke McCowan. I actually think McCowan ended up getting marked out of the game at points in the first half by Gogic, a centre half, because they had St Mirren had pressed one on McGregor. So another team has came and nullified Callum McGregor, and we actually struggled to deal with that again. So a lot of the balls were coming out of from our two full-backs. So what do we do in that situation? Do we try and break the line and try and get the ball into McCowan's feet? We couldn't. Do we give the ball to Arne Engels, who can try and break the lines and get it into Adam Ida or Luke McCowan, who was playing a bit further up? We couldn't. So there's going to be frustration. And that for me, when you see the amount of times Engels looked up, seen the pass, wanted to move, didn't get it, and he would recycle it. I think fans, albeit you need to be patient, and albeit the goals came after what we'd seen on the ball on Thursday from where we were starting in the back line. I go back to the two left-hand side defenders. I don't rule out Alistair Johnson's performance on Thursday as well. I thought it was pretty poor.
Yeah.
We're on the edge of our seat. We're a little bit worried about, what we've seen at the beginning of the season, what we're watching in the last couple of games, the last few weeks, it's fair to say as well. So I don't think it's just in the reaction of the fans yesterday. I do think it has been, the full of December, there's been so much rotation. We're not playing at the same tempo that we have been at the beginning. Trust with it. I'm upset at the groaning. Give them a bit of slack. I'm okay with that. But I also clocked Callum McGregor at one point go through Austin Trusty yesterday for another sideways pass.
Okay.
He was pointing towards Greg Taylor and he was pointing towards Dyson Maeda. So you're going to have a word with Callum McGregor for calling out a bad pass? It's as simple as that. We're there to see our team. We've paid our money. We need to be patient with each other.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. You go, Murph.
Just something I want to come in on because I think it's relevant. Excuse me. I have attended games at Celtic Park for a long time, and the new modern trend of the low block that we face is also the extreme time wasting tactics that come with that.
Wild yesterday,
and I've seen subs being sent round. That wee bandit Naismith was the worst for it. If Hearts managed to get a goal, sub was sent round, keeper was down with a sore ankle, needing to tie his laces, all these different things. But that yesterday for St Mirren was the most extreme for the first 25 minutes. No, absolutely.
And I don't mind Robinson trying that, but the ref's got to
No,
the ref had three attempts to book someone and he never done it in the first half.
And it was so ridiculous. I mean, the keeper, I actually counted, because it was annoying me that much, the keeper held the ball in his hand for 15 seconds. 15 seconds.
It took him 25 for one of them, and 14 seconds later it was in his net, which is a nice way to
so
reply.
Good. But, like you say, away teams will come and try it on. There is just absolutely no policing that. And ultimately, It is absolutely the away team's right to do that. I am not moaning about the fact that the away
But
team's
it's a
tried to
football
do that.
game. The refs
However,
gotta get
it's
grip
a
of
game
that.
of football. It has to be balanced. So absolutely, I'm all for if your team's 1-0 up or try to hold on for a draw, last few minutes and you're doing all the dark arts, that's fine. But you're talking, this is the first 5-10 minutes of a game, and you're sitting down and you're waiting for and the game just never really gets started. Now, you can say well done to the opposition, that's fine. I know that's the nature of football, but I just felt in the game, this St Mirren game, it was really extreme.
Not to pull away from where we're talking here. Surely that is that's what teams are coming up in to Celtic Park and they're setting up like that. Rangers were doing it at Ibrox at points and how slow Liam Kelly was and taking goal kicks.
You might have seen some of the ball boy stuff as well.
Wild, right? But they're actually putting things in place down. I know in the Premier League that there's got to be balls ready around the park.
So Hibs are doing that.
The same's come into the SPFL this season.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening to Rangers in terms of things like that? If you are trying to improve the speed of the game, the amount of time that the ball is in play on the park, which at Celtic Park is not a lot, by the way. You're sitting twiddling your thumbs at points in the amount of time teams take. Surely then that's up to the referee from the very get-go to book a player. The minute you start time wasting, caution them.
You only need to do one.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, there was a rookie referee, first of all. I can't remember his name, but that's
Grant
his
Irvin.
first time taking Celtic. Just leave it. You've got a rookie referee. There was a point where Celtic won a free kick in our left back area in the first half, and a guy just blatantly kicked the ball away. And that's just a very straightforward yellow card. There's no debate about it. It's, you kick the ball away, you get a yellow card.
Whilst we were one up.
Exactly.
I would also say as well, I think Grant Irvin would make an excellent counsellor because he enjoyed having wee chats with the players when
Marcus Fraser in the first minute.
Aye,
He's having a chat with him and it's a blatant booking.
Blatant booking.
Wild.
Let's get back on track. James, from Paddy's point particularly there, do you feel that some of Brendan Rodgers' comments are deflection, is that the right word, from what was a really poor performance at Ibrox? Now, I'm going to counter it before I even get your response. He did acknowledge how poor we were at Ibrox and we want to do certain things and we never got going, and he accepted that. He didn't labour the point, didn't go into too much detail, but he accepted how poor we were. But do you feel, so all of a sudden, this is only Monday, the Rangers game was on Thursday, but actually we're not really talking about that anymore.
No.
We covered it briefly, but actually Celtic world has moved on.
Brendan's
Is it a masterclass? Because now the manager's taking the pressure off of
the players.
Anything else, certainly off the players, and he's saying, I'm the top man, give it to me, and in a couple of days' time, we'll play Dundee United in that lobby forgotten about. What do you think? Is there something to that?
I think there's something to it. There's a lot of things in the mix. First and foremost, it's the first game since Ibrox. There's no fans of ours at Ibrox, so no one's had a chance to exhaust that result, to vent their spleen at that result. So you've got the whole stadium ready to go, kind of thing. This is my first shot. Second thing is, I think there's just genuine fatigue in the squad. The number of games we're playing. And that does lead to, as well as your body being tired, it's your mind. You're getting 3 days gap, you're not getting as much time in the training pitch. You're basically doing conditioning, a couple of drills, and then you're into the next game. And that has a massive effect. Then there's how long we played this system for. And eventually all systems get found out. Every single system in world football gets found out eventually. So you've seen how Bruges did it, seen how Zagreb did it. They played against us really well. And then all of a sudden you've got a Motherwell copying that system, Rangers copying that system, and St Mirren. And
the smaller teams.
All the smaller teams. But what you've got to look at in response to that is saying, if I'm, hell-bound to this system, then I need better players to do it faster, more consistently, more skillfully.
That's it.
I don't think that's necessarily an option for us at the moment. We can do it incrementally, but not wholesale. Yeah. So is he going to make any changes to the system? I don't think so, because he's so wedded to his system. So what I'm saying is, dig in, grin and bear it. Unless we're going to go and spend 50 million in the transfer window here.
He won't make wholesale changes to his system, but there's no doubt he'll be tweaking it, because he's a I'm going to call him a master tactician, because I believe he is. He knows football. So there's no way he's not going back to the drawing board with Gavin Strachan and Adam, whatever you call him. Sorry, I forget his surname. The other coaches, John Kennedy. What's his name? I don't know. Pat will come back to us, Paddy, won't it?
Aye.
Must be important. Anyway, there's no doubt that they'll be sitting going, right, okay, teams are now putting a man on Callum. How do we work around that? If they're marking Callum, maybe we can create more space by doing X, Y, Z. Whatever that is, that's his job. And I don't doubt that he'll be finding ways to evolve his system. Plus the very fact that in January, whether it's Kieran Tierney or not, we'll get to that just shortly. There should be, don't you say that?
Can I say that?
There should
Don't be
be
disrespectful.
There should be folks coming in. Who was that? There should be folks coming in to ensure us to do what we try and do quicker, stronger, all these kind of things. Let's get to the second clip. So, following the first one that I played there, he was then asked, or he asked fans to trust in the team, saying that the evidence and consistency is there for all to see.
Yes, trust. Just trust. Trust the team. Trust the manager. If you don't, just trust. Just trust the team. Trust how they play. We've seen it consistently now. It's not like a year or so ago or just over a year ago, where it was a little bit slow and a little bit, and players are getting used to it. The consistency of the team has been incredible. The level of the team has been such a high level. But support it. And then you'll get even more out of the team.
James, surely given where we are right now, I know you're chomping at the bit, Miff, but James, just to keep him at bay as much as anything, surely this team have got credit in the bank, and I think the manager's, it's not unreasonable to ask for that trust given the body of evidence that we've seen so far this season.
No, I mean, on a broader point, if you can take a step back and look at this season and last season, in the last 25 years now, it sounds patronising, but we've never had it so good, right? We just haven't. And if we can take a bit of a broader look at these things, losing a game to Rangers, which will never be something I will accept or enjoy or whatever, but in the grand scheme of things, I think you just need to, you need to trust the players, you need to trust the manager. More than both of those at the moment, I need to trust my scouting team and see what they can deliver.
Paddy, I'd like to come to you, but this wee guy's got itchy feet. I need to hear what he's got to say.
Just go to Paddy, make him wait.
Aye, make me wait. No, I
You're
deserve
button.
it.
Just
I won't.
go to Bill.
I won't. No, I've not got my cans in me. I'm fine.
Paddy, your own take on that for now.
Oh, he done it as well. My own take. I'm worried about Miff. I'm with James on that. I think that there is an element of where we need to see this team take ownership of these games and understand that listen, the credit is in the bank. It really is, but you cannot stop, and that is the level that Celtic are at. That is why we're so successful.
Only as good as your last game.
Absolutely, and I get that he doesn't want the pressure on them. I understand that, but ultimately we've got to remember that this is we should be looking to win week in, week out. He will say that himself. Mm-hmm. He says at the beginning of each transfer window since he's come back that he's looking at quality. So if he's looking at quality, he knows that there is flaws within the squad. He wants that squad improved upon. So if fans can pick up on that, then we do know about football. We do know that there's players that are just off the mark of the level that he wants his team to be. And we know that we're maybe only a couple of players away from having a real go at longer runs in Europe as well. He knows that as well.
Yeah.
100%. I think it's more just about the respect of the team, and I can understand that argument. Respect who is playing with the jersey. I think we've seen it over time. We've seen the weight of the Celtic jersey, as I've mentioned many a time. Mikey Johnson being one of them. There's definitely players that it's just been too much for them.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want that pressure on the guys. However, when you play with Celtic, you need to be able to cope with that pressure.
It's part and parcel, isn't it? It's part of life at Celtic. Right, Math, go for it.
See you in 20 minutes.
See what I find fascinating is just he just can't let that criticism of last season go. He can't. That's twice he's brought it up in as many weeks, I think.
But I think he acknowledges that. I don't think he's bringing that up to have a dig at us.
He was acknowledging that it was a little slow, and thus it was justified. There was a bit of criticism,
but
it wasn't just.
But I also think he is justified in asking for for us to look at the bigger picture and asking for a bit more patience as we continue to build. I think that's entirely reasonable. That again, it's just the sort of barbs that are kind of unnecessary. I think it's actually even more the tone of it than anything else. It's just that sort of kind of dismissive.
How he said it.
It's the dismissive sort of way that it's said. Like if you know football.
I don't agree with that.
But that is, I think it may be something there. But that really draws the attention to him.
Aye.
And then we're talking about angry Brendan, as you say.
Spiky Brendan.
And then that takes
he would wear the black jumper. If he's got a shirt and tie on, it's a totally
that takes it
different.
right off the players, right off the squad, the whole thing.
And, you know, for me, there's a huge thing in it with regards to that being the first time we were back after post the Rangers game. And if MD was in any doubt, you know, you quite often see it levied at Celtic fans. Do you not get sick of winning? Do you not get sick of, there's not much of a fight coming for Rangers? Well, giving them any sort of encouragement or oxygen, you know, to put up a fight against you, you just can't have. And that's on the morning of the game, Sky were showing Old Firm goals, and I say that because it did relate to the Old Firm period. And my oldest boy was sitting there going, because it was coming up, 4-0 Rangers at Ibrox, 2-0 Rangers at Celtic Park, because they'd obviously do runs of, it would be Celtic goals and it'd be Rangers goals, and he was sitting going, were we that bad? And I say, aye, wee man. I said, there was a few games that weren't too good. I said, but back then it was a bit more nip and tuck. And even watching those goals, you're like, ugh. So for a matter of hours later, to be sitting there in real time going,
you've just made noises this whole 3 minutes here.
I had to have a word with the wee man, because he launched his phone off the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, wee man, no, enough. I said, can I take it? Don't watch it. Meanwhile, I'm like, but it matters so much to us as fans. Of course it does. And as though there's, I suppose the point I'm trying to get to is, why should it be a surprise? I know he doesn't like getting beat and he's not used to getting beat off Rangers, but why should it be a surprise to him that he's so bristling that he's had to come out the way that he's come out, that we've been beaten off Rangers? Surely you just say, right, well, one of those days, we've accepted it, we've moved on, rather than need to come out swinging for the fans, because that just feels like what he's doing.
I think if you were to sit on Twitter or X, sorry,
Formerly known as Twitter.
Sorry, Elon. I think if you're, I'm kidding on, don't worry.
He's the gang.
If you were to sit on Twitter the next day and read some of people's views on that game, and the amount of players in that starting 11 that are finished is baffling. Like, considering what we have done this season, I can understand why there's a bit more of a defensive fight to it. And he'll know about all of that. He'll know about who has said what, where is that coming from, why is my players getting this, considering the start of the season that we've had. We've played some of the best football I have seen as a Celtic supporter this season. We really have.
You've agreed with that, Miff?
Aye.
Aye.
I think it's been an exceptional start. I get why he's done it. I think it's just a bit more show the team respect. I understand that. Just be careful how you speak to fans, though. I just think that it's the bread and butter of a football club, and I think that relationship between your manager and your supporters has to be strong. I don't think we need that, but if it is deflection away from the team, fair. But just be careful how you speak to your fans.
I think that's a key point, and I think he reined himself in. He went, trust the team, trust the manager, and if you don't, no.
Trust the team. He just pulled himself right back at the high.
How the nosedive.
Lads, if you don't like the tone in clips 1 and 2, I've got something on the way. Okay, the final clip, as mentioned, and I think it's going to be interesting, really interesting actually to hear your responses to this. Towards the end of the game, most of us will have heard the fans chanting Kieran Tierney's name, and the manager wasn't best pleased at all. Let's hear what he had to say.
Aye, total lack of respect.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Look at Greg Taylor. He's been absolutely amazing at this club. How does he feel? He's playing, nearly breaks his nose, bleeding for the club, for the cause. But I'm more worried about the players that are here. It's not very respectful. You sing for another player, no matter what Kieran's history is. I don't like that.
Paddy, first and foremost, I think going into that question, his first thought is to defend his player, Greg Taylor, and I admire any manager doing that. Your job is to protect your players, but I think he's got it wrong. I think he's got the sentiment and the tone wrong in terms of how he's delivered that. What do you think?
Yeah, 100% wrong. I think that think about all the players we sing about at Celtic Park. We sing about the Lisbon Lions. We sing about all the greats that have come through the Parkhead gates as they sing. Are we not allowed to sing about them? And I understand the situation. I understand it's a left back coming into the club. But we've been speaking about this show. We've been speaking about the quality that Brendan Rodgers says he needs. We've been speaking about how we don't have really that starting 11 anymore. It is a squad game. Kieran Tierney improves your squad. Greg Taylor would know that himself.
Yeah,
100%.
James, can you see why he would come out fighting for Taylor? And when he came into the press conference, it's important to note, when asked one of the questions, he says, I've not spoken to Greg yet. So, and do you know what? While we're on that, let's dispel some rumours.
Yeah.
You know, there was this whole suggestion that Taylor took the huff and ran down tunnel immediately on the whistle. It's been confirmed he's taken a sore one to the nose and he's gone to get treatment. Absolutely fine. And folks just like to kind of, make things up if in doubt, and I don't think that's spot on.
Some poor tweets on that though. Some poor tweets that would lead people to believe that he's walked off in a huff. I think we need to be careful how we're putting that stuff out there.
Some guys can make mistakes. If they are, they should come out and correct them.
Yeah.
So the manager's confirmed that he's not run down the tunnel in a huff, and also that he hadn't spoken to Greg Taylor. Some folks said, he's clearly just spoke to the player and he's obviously got the vibe that Taylor's not happy. Not true. No. Made up, not true. But James, to come to you on the tone of it, as I say, I have no problem with a manager defending his players. Maybe he could have just stopped there. He could have breezed by the Tierney stuff and said, yeah, do you know what, Kieran was great for us, but he's not our player, so let's leave that where it is. But in terms of Greg, XYZ, I just don't think he quite caught that one right.
No, it comes from the right place. It's well intentioned. But as we said earlier on, Brendan doesn't say anything by mistake, and he goes on further in that piece to say that, Kieran Tierney's Champions League standard. I get that. And then it says Greg Taylor isn't. And that's not the right thing to say, right?
No, I'll pick you up on that because I've watched it twice. What he does say is that there's players here that in some fans' opinions aren't champions. Right. He's not saying that.
Right, okay. Because I was thinking that was maybe a shot at Taylor's agent to say what you're asking for and things like that. So I'll not get into the whole Taylor agency thing then. That doesn't make any sense to my prior point. But Tierney will always be loved at Celtic, and no one can tell Celtic fans to not sing Kieran Tierney's name. That just doesn't make any sense. But we could be looking at a situation whereby he goes back to Barcelona next week. Taylor and Tierney are rotating for the left back position as we go through Champions League. Players like that need your support. They don't need, barbs. But I don't think Kieran Tierney's name is disrespecting Taylor as much as he gets stick elsewhere.
Yeah. The simple matter of the fact is we need a left back.
Yeah.
At the end of a season, if we don't sign Tierney, Taylor could leave and Baye could be away back to Barca and we've got no one.
Yeah.
So if there's potential of it could have been a world-class left back if he could stay fit in his career at Arsenal, coming back to Celtic and a chance of a hero coming back to Celtic, what's you going to be excited about that?
Yeah. I think there's one part of it where the reports are Taylor's starting to regret his strong stance, and he wants to, I believe he does want to stay at Celtic because there's a hell of a shelf when you leave Celtic to a top-level championship team and get money. But I think his agency have made a real mess of this. He moved from Jackie McNamara to Ricky Gillis a couple of years ago, and there's lots of wee squirrels and whispers out to try and get the fans kind of thinking that he's not being treated right. And I think Celtic have put a good offer in front of him, and they're wanting more, and that Celtic aren't prepared to go that far. And it's now a position where Taylor's not going to get what he wants, which is actually to stay at Celtic.
I would go as far as to say that Brendan Rodgers told him at the beginning of the season, you are not going to be the first team left back if we get with the player we want.
And that's okay at Celtic.
And I still think we would have signed Kieran Tierney in the summer had it not been for his injury.
Yeah.
I also think that, before I come to you, both sides, Celtic and Greg Taylor, first and foremost are right to look out for their own individual interests, right? Celtic want cover at left back. The manager knows Greg Taylor and feels he can provide that cover. Not necessarily a starting left back, but a left back who can provide cover and he knows the player well. Greg Taylor is absolutely within his gift, Miff, at 27 years of age, to look out and to quote the man himself, Bobo Baldy, Greg Taylor is the CEO of Greg Taylor. He is right to look out for himself and get the best possible deal he can for him and his family at 27.
Absolutely.
He's maybe got 3-4 years left at the top level. So he's right to hold out for what he wants. And if it comes to it, they'll nudge about. We'll give you this, we'll give you that. Celtic will up and down the offer. If they can't agree on it, then he moves on. That's football. People are questioning that. People are actually questioning Kieran Tierney. They were saying, Tierney jumped at the first chance of a move. Kieran Tierney was a talented and ambitious young man, and he left and he also gave Celtic the gift of 25 million. People calling out Kieran Tierney are madmen and women. Matt, I'll come at you.
You want to be Rodgers, aren't you?
I don't know where I was going, but I think I'll repeat it. He's right to defend his player. I think he got it wrong in the way it came across.
Well, much like you going a wee bit off tangent and going on to a rant there, I think that's exactly what Rodgers has done. I think he's went on to a secondary subject and ended up ranting about that as well.
Which on the prior subject.
Which he didn't really necessarily mean to do, and it's came across as a sort of ham-fisted defence of Greg Taylor and yet another swipe at the fans. I don't really think any of it was intended, but it's really, really lacking in control for somebody who is normally so measured.
Do you know what that's it? And it's almost like we've all been there at times where you're in the heat of an
And
argument.
I know
That was a line.
I don't even like your sister either. It does my eyes, you can ruin you.
Trifles, mince.
But it is that. It's like, and while we're on the subject, it was kind of that. And
Get it all out.
Like, listen, just on Greg Taylor then, just to kind of round up where he's at in terms of his Celtic career. Signed in September 2019, the month after Kieran Tierney left. So immediately, he is KT's replacement. Big shoes to fill. That's tough. Kieran Tierney was and is a Celtic hero. It's a very hard job for Greg Taylor or whoever came in. But he signed for Kilmarnock for $3 million at that time. He saw off stiff competition, and then I'm going to mention ball and goalie.
No, but players that were due to come in and take the jersey.
Signed,
Yes.
I think to take his jersey.
They've signed left backs to replace him, and he saw them all out the door. Ball and goalie, Bernaby. Bailly can't get his shirt off him either.
I think ball and goalies saw himself at the door.
That is possibly the case. Greg Taylor has won 10 major honours for Celtic, 4 leagues.
Diego Laxalt.
My God.
AC Milan's Diego Laxalt. 4 leagues, 3 Scottish Cups, 3 League Cups. He's also picked up 14 Scotland caps in the time. Miff, I know you're a huge fan of Greg Taylor. You've always been very genuine in that. But do you feel, and here is a question, do you feel that some fans, and I do stress some fans, always need to have a fall guy at Celtic, and it just so happens that Greg Taylor and maybe Liam Scales to an extent are those guys at the moment?
It was Arne Engels a few weeks ago. It's the nature of football. Very rarely is everything rosy in the garden with some fans. But listen, that is each individual's prerogative. When they go to watch a game of football, you pay your money, you look at it and say, right, well, I don't think he's good enough. More regularly than not, it tends to be Taylor that gets it. I think it's actually quite a unique situation for Taylor, because I think he's probably stretched out his ability and managed to maintain a place at Celtic. He's had to strain really, really hard to do that, but has done it over a quite considerable period of time. What he's done is given, if you look back at specifically in our triumphs over Rangers, I would say he has been a particularly good player of the Glasgow derby. Always good at setting the tone in the left-hand side and supporting Maeda. I just think if you look at what your expectations were when you signed Greg Taylor versus what the output has been over that period of time for £3 million, I think he has been absolutely fantastic value for money. I also think he was massively integral to the early days of Ange, where him and Ralston were asked to play a very unfamiliar role and did so, with great energy and great enthusiasm, even though the early days were fairly ropey for Ange. And I think Ange repaid that faith in him after that, even though he probably wasn't meaning to, because Bernaby was signed expecting to take his place. I just think in Taylor, I get why people that there's been a few individual performances. I think the Bodo one in particular is the one that always stands out to people, that they tend to look at individual performances as that defining performance, which tells you he's not good enough, rather than looking at the consistency over 20 or 30 games, which would potentially say that he is good enough. But again, that's different people's opinions, and that's football. For me, Greg Taylor, if he goes, will be fondly remembered as a very consistent performer for Celtic, who probably was somebody that did a far better job than anybody thought he would. I would love it if he stayed, because I think it's the perfect scenario if you get Tierney in, who's probably only got to manage maybe 30 games in a season. Mm-hmm. And I know people will be listening to this going, "What are you signing somebody that can only play 30 games a season for?" But those 30 games are, you're getting someone who's, in my opinion, really top level. So if you've then got somebody in Taylor who can provide a certain level of performance for you and back up to Tierney, I think that's the absolute dream scenario for Celtic. So for me, having that ready-made replacement for Tierney and somebody who's already in the building is just the perfect scenario.
It makes a lot of sense, and just as you've kind of covered there, Muff, he's a guy who's been here for 5 years and picked up 10 major trophies. He's played a huge part. I thought it was interesting that I don't think any player covered himself in glory at Ibrox, save for Carter Vickers, who was decent, and Kasper Schmeichel, yet some folk wanted to jump on Taylor for it. Taylor was far from Celtic's worst performer, but some folks can't get out their heads, and I don't think that's right at any point.
I actually thought, I would go as far as I thought Taylor was decent. I understand why it was changed though, because we were needing a bit of attacking impetus, but I thought he was decent, but that, you needed better than decent.
I agree with that. Final thoughts, just as we kind of move on from Greg Taylor, but are you lads happy if that's the situation moving forward? Kieran Tierney with Greg Taylor as backup?
No, I think the gap's too big, and it's something we looked at over the years. It was a particular problem under Ange, that the gap between the first team starter and the backup was too vast. Some fans will argue that situation exists between Johnson and Ralston. I'm not sure, but you certainly can't be replicating that gap. For me personally, I think the ideal scenario would be a committed buy that we can then train up under. Someone like Kieran Tierney would be phenomenal. I think it'd be best for everyone if Taylor goes and gets his move, makes some money. The problem I have with Taylor leaving is we're losing a big character. We're losing one of the captains of the team. I think he's been a great person to have in the squad, and he's had notable performances as well. I don't trust him at the back. I find he's easy to stand up for a striker and a winger coming at him.
Every team targets him.
But going forward, he does have ability that other players in his position don't. Even just going back to Aberdeen a few weeks ago, that ball for Hatate, I don't think there's many defenders can find themselves in that position deliberately and put that ball in deliberately like he did, but that's not his job. So I think the best thing is clean slate.
He's a guy who's, to your point, he's a popular figure in the dressing room. Yeah. He has a character, he's a personality in the dressing room. There's a quote here. I was on the Celtic Wiki site. If anyone doesn't know, it's a brilliant site, celticwiki.com, and I was on Greg Taylor's page on that earlier on ahead of the episode, and there's a good quote from Jota after a 5-0 win v Kilmarnock in August 2022. He says, "I think I should speak about Greg because he's been unbelievable this season and he's a top player. I think he's delivering every game." And if Jota says it, then it's good enough for me, Paddy. But I just think that quote in itself, and there's lots of praise from his various managers. He's played under Lenny, he's played under Ange and Brendan Rodgers. They've all stuck by him, and as I say, they've brought in other players. It'd be easy just to cast them aside and say Laxalt or whoever is now the new left back. But actually, he's proven time and time again that he can do a job, and at times he definitely deserves more credit, Paddy, than he gets.
For those listening, Miff's clapping the screen with a picture
so
of Greg Taylor on it. I think that the intention has been to find that left back that's going to come in and take the jersey, though. That's the thing, and listen, no harm to Greg Taylor at all. I think he's done a great job for Celtic, and I will always thank him for the years that he's given us. But there is a big factor, and it is a big but. Like we are speaking about trying to improve. Our manager is speaking about trying to improve. We've had managers leave us just in the cuff of things, and there's no sentimentality there at all. It needs to be cutthroat at the player level as well. And I think that when you look at some of our games, and I know that a lot of Celtic fans refer back to Bodo Glimt, but you can go as close as Atletico Madrid. He gave away a penalty. You can go as close as games against Lazio. He was getting turned inside out. You
can go to the League Cup final a couple of weeks ago,
and you can go to the mistakes.
Aberdeen.
So the mistakes
Taylor
are there.
Taylor. Put me back in this guy.
But no, listen, I do think it's thanks, Greg, but all the best in you.
And that's all right. The best in football. Good luck to him. He's looking out for himself and his family. He's been nothing but 100% all in with Celtic, and I think he deserves a lot of credit and a lot of praise for that. Let's move on, and amongst all the noise, we've forgotten that Celtic did win a game 3-0. Austin Trusty's first goal for the club. Brilliant delivery from Arne Engels. And on that, Paddy, another big performance by Engels. You could debate that out with Ibrox. He's man of the match 3 in a row for Celtic.
Yeah, just a bit of swagger coming for the big man now. Yeah. He's more comfortable, and I think he now knows the job he has in his hands. I actually liked him over on the left-hand side of midfield. I think that he's a little bit more comfortable looking up and creating the space out in the right as much as he is in the left. Very impressed by him.
Spot on. James, what did you think? Engels stepping up a wee bit?
I mean, because all four of us know ball, we called it when he came in. Do you know what I mean? There was never any doubts on Engels. Players will have form dips and things like that, but there's never a doubt in my mind. And this doesn't mean he's made it. He's going to have other dips, and he's going to have other parts of his career progression and learning and coaching. It's just something we're going to have to accept as fans when you sign young players who have a lot in their locker and more to be coached into them.
I want to see him bury a free kick, because I
Aye,
think
he's
as
got
soon
that.
as he does one,
Yeah.
that'll be it.
Yeah.
He'll be off.
I'd like to see some open play goals. He's obviously, his set piece delivery is phenomenal. His corners are spot on.
Yeah.
And he's got a great technique in terms of how he strikes the ball. I'd just like to see him get that goal in open play, Miff, which might just unlock another part of his game.
He's had one.
Has he?
Aye.
Got one.
A few weeks ago. Oh, yeah, he scored an open play.
Aye, he
Because
did.
he scored
He
two.
did. He scored
one
one.
game.
He scored one at home. Did you know?
Anyway, this isn't great for the listeners.
Aye.
I just think he just looks like a very, very good footballer. I love watching him.
Yeah.
Very elegant the way that he moves about the pitch, but also physical, great touch, great technique,
Rapid, by
crack
the way.
player. And also you mentioned Austin Trusty's first goal. There was a airing of the hashtag Trusty the process.
Aye.
Love it.
Fantastic.
By
Austin Trusty himself.
Yeah, good man.
If Rodgers is going on about songs yesterday, they need to pull up. He needs to pull up the Green Brigade for the.
Away.
Oh, it's awful.
American
American
boy.
boy. Great tune ruined.
Aye.
Take me on.
A great tune ruined.
I really want to win the league with you. Pass.
Awful.
Thumbs up.
Awful.
Thumbs up, lads. Keep up the good work.
It's not for me.
Let's move on. We've spoken about a big performance by Engels, but again, I thought Nicolas Kuhn was really good. I thought he had the bit between his teeth. He's shown that from an early part of the game, and he took his goal tally to 16 for the season. There's now stats showing that he's outperforming Jota's best season at Celtic, which was the 2022-23 season, and I'll actually read out the stats. So, goals, 16 goals so far for Kuhn, and he's got a half season to add to that. Jota got 15, 11 assists so far for Kuhn. Jota got 12, and it shows his goals per 90 minutes, 0.77 for Kuhn and 0.46 for Jota. The big factor in it, as I've leaned towards here, is that Nicolas Kuhn has achieved those stats in 1,875 minutes. Jota took 2,925 minutes. But, Paddy, football isn't as simple as that. Stats can tell you some of the story, but not all the story. I mean, I was digging about on Twitter. I seen a tweet which I thought was pretty relevant. It's a fella called Aidan Higgins97 on Twitter. And Aidan says, I'm enjoying Kuhn very much, but please don't ever put him in the same bracket as Jota. Football isn't all about stats. I'd watch Jota and know he was levels above our Scottish game. Yeah, there's a wee bit of some of that you might not agree with. And I think Nicolas Kuhn is there or thereabouts with Jota. But you can see where he's coming from in terms of Jota was just a real class. I've described Jota as a generational talent at Celtic. We only had him for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I thought he was phenomenal. It's not just about goals and assists. There was a lot to Jota's game.
Well, no, it is on paper for both of them, and that's what people are comparing. But look at the system we're playing. Look at the amount of goals coming from all our midfielders this season, and the assists coming from all over the park as well. Ange wanted the ball into his strikers, and he got the ball into his strikers, hence the reason Kyogo and GG scored so much. So there is a difference.
Yeah,
Both great players.
I also think, as much as you can go on about stats, you know, Jota just had that wee touch of class about him. Just go back and watch the Leverkusen away goal,
Oh,
Great finish.
yeah.
and
we were
also
there.
watch
Even
the
his goal
watch
against
the
Leipzig as well. Great goal.
Ferencvaros through ball.
Oh,
Hugo.
You know, the moments where you just know somebody's a player. But, however, modern football is very much about the numbers, very much about the output, very much about the end product. And there is absolutely no doubt Nicolas Kuhn is tracking to be, you know, possibly a far more effective footballer than Jota.
Yeah.
Now, it's up to you, but you want to, you know, choose to go and watch, pay to go and see, whatever way you look at it. But has he played George Michael in a Christmas video?
Maybe.
Double denim.
What you're actually getting in Kuhn is a bit of a Bada and a bit of Jota.
I would say he's in between the two.
You're getting the style,
A
but you're,
Bota.
but you're getting the numbers.
A gooder?
What you get from Jota is big game. Every big game, pure big game mentality. And I think that Kuhn has been put out the game against Rangers last 2 times. I think he needs to toughen up. I think he needs to maybe just go and get in the box.
So you're
swing a wee
saying
bit.
just accept those elbows directly at the nose?
No, just be tougher. You'll get your smacks.
I
You need to
think
take it and get back on with it.
Mr. Yefty, was it?
Kuhn needs to do more nose work in the gym, I think.
Aye.
It does.
The manager did speak up, and he was quite quick to say, so somebody said, he seems to have recovered from the bang in the nose, and you could see the evidence of that bang in the nose. He had a cut across his beak, and Rodgers said, but he needs to get used to that. That's part of the game. You know, he was quite quick to say, he's not making excuses, he's not saying, it's a disgrace. He's saying, but you need to respond to that.
Everybody was getting it. Everybody was getting it.
If you get known for that, players will just take you out first 20 minutes and
Because
that's you done.
I think if we're being frank, he went quiet at Ibrox.
Yeah, of course he
And
did.
We know he's got the talent, and I think he'll have learned from that, and I think we'll need him to step up in future games. And I've no doubt he will. He's a huge talent, and it's been so exciting to see. As we're getting towards the end of this week's show, we need to touch on what's happening this week. We've got Dundee United on Wednesday. We're not going to have a pre-match just given the time between shows here. So, Paddy, how you feeling? We're up against Jim Goodwin's side again. They're in third place and they've shown some real decent form in recent times. How do you think that will shape up at Celtic Park on Wednesday?
They have. They're a difficult outfit, but they lost yesterday to Hearts.
Yeah,
I think that good time for us to play them then. Just go and capitalise on that and hopefully take a few goals off them. I think it'll be an interesting stadium on Wednesday.
Spiky stadium.
Spiky. Aye,
Kieran Tierney chance from the start.
Everyone will show up in black jumpers. And the 100% you're going to hear the Kieran Tierney song. 100%. They'll just start firing every player in the mix.
Please.
We'll just all turn up as milk tray man.
Yeah, see how that goes. James, Rangers don't play till Thursday. Not that it really concerns you. The 13 points were good to go, but Rangers play Dundee on Thursday night. What do you expect to see from Celtic on Wednesday?
I just think a bit more free flowing. I do get Rodgers' point, change the point of attack and all that kind of stuff, but it can be done faster. And you've got Trusty and CCV in there, so you've got a bit more pace in that centred unit. But I think when we're horseshoeing, if we have to, horseshoe faster. Horseshoe as fast as you can.
Gallop.
Aye. And that will keep fans, a bit more relaxed. It's when it's ponderous that can be hard to watch. And it just what fans really hate to see is when you get through the lines and then you end up, not taking advantage of that and resetting and horseshoes from that. That's a killer.
Well, the manager gave the best example. If you heard it in the press conference, he talked about Daizen Maeda against Bruges. It was Bruges, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And we were all there when Daizen Maeda had the ball going forward and he turned back and we all groaned. And 15 seconds later, Maeda put it in the back of the net.
That's Daizen. He's not looking for logic.
No, but it's backwards to go forward. The manager gave that as the very good example. But he was in the final third. He went back out it, got the ball, then scored.
I don't mean that. I mean actually getting into the second, third from defence and breaking those lines and go back to defence. Or, saw one, I finally had a glimmer of hope for Palmer yesterday. He went outside the boys, hit the touchline. He's turned back.
I think it's all over. Despite me buying the Palmer mug at Christmas, it is all over. If just to finish on this part, the game yesterday was our second of 9 in January alone. You've spoken frequently about the relentless schedule, and yes, Ibrox was frustrating and there was Dundee United stuff, but by and large Celtic have managed it pretty well so far. We've got 2 big games to be prepared for, Paddy. You've mentioned obviously Young Boys on the 22nd of this month, Villa on the 29th. There's some big things to come, and again he needs to manage his squad through these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, ultimately, James mentioned it earlier, dig in. That's what we all need to do, players, manager and the fans as well. So yeah, listen, I'm looking forward to going Wednesday night, get there, get behind the team, hopefully get another important 3 points. That's really what it's all about, as much as we want optimum performance. I think we do realise that we're in the midst of a very gruelling schedule, so the team will have to rotate, and as a result of that, performance levels may dip, but it's all about getting the 3 points.
Yeah, I agree with that. Paddy, your final comments for this week?
Yeah, I think it's a long month. I think we said this on the pre-match the other day. It's a bit of a tough slog, January. The amount of games that we've got to play and keeping the players fresh is the challenge. We've got a big cup game coming up against Kilmarnock as well. I don't think that's going to be the easiest.
Not on a treble.
Say again?
Not when you're on for a treble.
Exactly, and I think McInnes will set up to frustrate as well. So he's managed.
When's the season ticket deadline? Sorry, I've just...
next Friday, I believe the tickets come off.
Is it?
Aye, I believe
That's
so.
just come into my head.
Or the 9th. You've got me there.
Sorry. I know this is good airtime.
I know.
Thank you.
Aye. Well, I'm sure
Continue, Paddy.
Wow. But I think it's what we are looking at Dundee United. We are looking at obviously the games that are coming up. But Rodgers will be thinking about his squad, about how he manages it, and how he manages the fans as well.
That's
fan management,
and that's his job as the manager. James, your own final thoughts?
Yeah, just let's all calm down. It's I suppose we've had these few days. The key is we've had a win in these few days, and they've dropped points.
It's hilarious.
We dropped points yesterday, and they win. I might have a different tone entirely. Do you know what I mean? But we didn't. It's all worked out in the end. So let's just keep supporting the boys, and we'll get to the end of the season with some trophies.
Yeah, it's all fine margins. My final word goes to you.
To be quite honest with you, I think it's just all part of the show.
Aye.
It's just all part of it. It's
theatre, myth.
It's theatre, and however long it takes, he will never let something that's irked him pass without making his point, getting his point across. I think that's what he's done. Now, we've just debated for a very long time whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing, or he's done it in the right way or the wrong way, with the right tone or the wrong tone. Thank you, Brendan, for giving us podcasters a wee bit of different content to speak about, rather than the grueling schedule, the rotation.
He'll be like, a show all about me.
Oh, fantastic.
He'll come up to you just at the blue one day. You're welcome.
Just a huge thanks for you. But that's what it's all about. I think anything that involves Celtic's obviously going to get us talking, and the manager being so pointed in his comments immediately, it made everybody sit up and listen. But it's back to the matter in hand, and that is, like James says, picking up points. He was in a position of strength to do so because Rangers had dropped, we had won. He's right to ask that we trust and back the team, and now it's over to us to go and do that.
Yeah, and let's see what this week brings. So that wraps things up on this first Celtic Exchange Weekly of 2025. Thanks to James, Paddy and Muff, and thanks to you for tuning in. We'll be back later in the week with the Dundee United post-match, as well as the Ross County pre-match ahead of Saturday's game. And if you want to enjoy these in every episode we do, completely ad-free, and to gain early access to the weekly show on a Monday, then jump to the CelticExchange.supercast.com to see how you can do so, all while supporting what we do in 2025. But until then, have a great week. We'll see you again very soon.